guys, how are you? That's Eva. I'm Sarah. Thank you for watching. Welcome. So much stuff happened this weekend. I have a lot that I'm working on for tomorrow, but I really wanted to talk about this tonight. And the reason I want to talk about this is a story that came out of Seattle within the past few days. And this is significant because Seattle is one of the first cities to actually vote. The city council actually voted to defund the police. They're not the first city, but they're one of the first ones. And a lot of things happened in the wake of this vote. So the city council voted a few weeks ago to defund the police department. The original proposal was 50%, but they're only cutting it by 14%. But in that 14%, the budget cuts will include cutting the navigation team, that is the homeless outreach team. And if you don't know, Seattle has a crazy homeless problem. There was actually a documentary that came out a year or two ago called Seattle is Dying. And it came out by the local news station, Como News posted this. It's on YouTube, it's free, you can watch it. Seattle is Dying, research it, which they go in depth about the homeless situation and sort of what's going on in Seattle. So that's one thing they were gonna cut. They were gonna cut the SWAT team. Carmen Best, the first ever Black police chief, they were gonna cut her income by 40%, and she was gonna have to lay off 100 officers, most of which are newer officers from Black and brown communities. We've already talked about this. That's not what this is about. What this video is about is the mayor of Seattle did a press conference recently in which she said that she was going to veto the budget cuts to the police department, and I'll play some of that for you now, but please stay tuned because after this I want to chat for a second and then I have more fun stuff for you. It's never just one thing. There's always several things. It always gets better, but watch the video.
Mayor Durkan said the reason for the veto was due to a lack of planning on the council's part for what will happen to public safety with the budget slash to the Seattle Police Department. Part of the city council's reworked budget, 100 officers would be laid off and certain programs, including the navigation team, which works with the homeless population, would be affected. Durkan says she's working with the council, SPD Chief Carmen Best, and soon-to-be interim Chief Adrian Diaz to come up with solutions. Durkan and Diaz both spoke about the increase in gun violence in Seattle.
We must stop gun violence. We know that enforcement and policing is only one part of the work that needs to be done to do so. We also have to work with trusted community partners who can work both to de-escalate situations and provide alternatives to the criminal justice system.
Since June 1st, shots fired calls have increased by 55%.
Whenever I talk about some of these stories and some of these happenings in a lot of these Democratic-run cities, I get a lot of comments saying, well, you know what? I don't feel sorry for these people or the residents that live there. They keep voting these politicians into office. What do they expect is going to happen? And you are absolutely right. But the interesting thing about this is that it's either 2 or 3, I believe 3 of the, if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comment sections, but it's 2 or 3 of these city council members that voted to defund the police actually ran on the platform of increasing budgets for police officers and increasing or hiring even more police officers. So I'm going to read you a bit of an interview, and this interview is from Andrew Lewis. Andrew Lewis is one of the city council members in Seattle who voted to defund the police, and he ran on the platform of increasing the police budget. So I want to read you a little bit of what he said, and then I want your opinion on this. So he says, as Jason asked the offset, so Jason is the interviewer, as Jason asked at the offset a little under a year ago at the Seattle Police Officers Guild Forum, Lewis said that we need to hire more police officers because we don't have enough staffing numbers to have an effective community policing. But now he appears to back a movement that would go in the other direction. What brought him to this position? And this is Andrew Lewis speaking. I do feel like that's something where I need to be held accountable to you, and I need to be accountable to my constituents and providing an answer. I think it's a fair question. As recently as a couple weeks ago, I still held the view that we have a police staffing issue and we need to hire more police officers. So he continues, we had a presentation from SPD about 4 weeks ago now where SPD presented their 911 calls to us, and 56% of those calls that SPD is responding to are non-criminal. That runs the range of things that are public health related calls. It runs the range of things that are citable like speeding or jaywalking or loitering or whatever. Clearly, The disconnect is not that we need more police. The disconnect is that we need first responders to respond to non-criminal calls because we want police to be responding to criminal calls. The idea is to send mental health professionals or a social worker to handle a specific type of 911 call when police officer may not be necessary. It's important to point out that there is a situation where someone is in crisis, when they pose a potential danger to the community, like they have a gun. Those would still be fact patterns where police would be dispatched. So my opinion, I'm going to give you just my quick opinion on that. I really want your opinion, but I'll give you my quick opinion, and then I have one more thing to show you that's really interesting, and then we're done with this video. My opinion is, I used to be a counselor. My title wasn't necessarily social worker, but I worked in that field, and I worked very close with social workers. I was a counselor. I didn't do home visits, but a lot of times, some of these calls that might seem non-violent can turn violent very quickly when you're confronted with someone, and that's why I would think you would need a police officer to respond to them and not an unarmed social worker. I'm so sorry I keep having to cut this video because my camera is and was dying, and that's my fault. I'm really bad at technical things, so I apologize. But to continue on what I'm saying is, or what I was saying is, I'm personally on the position that we need more policing and better training and more funding for police officers. I don't think social workers should be responding to this. And the interesting thing about the Seattle City Council, if you really look into it, if you look into their 2021 budget plan, they were also cutting budgets to human services. So they want social workers to respond to these calls, but they were also cutting human services. I find that really concerning. And I do hold steady on the fact that a lot of these seemingly innocent calls that come in can turn violent very quickly. Also, you know, I will say the city council member had a bit of a point, but his constituents, his people, voted him into office on a certain platform, and what I'm going to show you in a few minutes will prove that the people of Seattle want more policing. They don't agree with this city council, so they are betraying the people that put them in office. When you're in office, you are serving the people. Please let me know what you think, but I want to show you one more thing. So this story came out by Como News. That's the local news station in Seattle, and they did a poll on their news site. And I'm going to show you the results of the poll right now, and then we'll go. Please give me your thoughts. This is very telling, the results of the poll. So there it is. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon. There's so much to talk about from this weekend. Holy cow. Okay, bye. So I took the poll on Como News, that website I was just reading to you, and this is the local news of Seattle. The poll was, do you agree with the decision by Mayor Jenny Durkan to veto the city council budget plan? 86.9% of people said yes. Interesting, huh?